Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Anne Bayford, and today I'm going to be talking about how I healed my gallbladder. So back in 2007, I was living in Zurich at the time, and I had a bit of pain in my lower back. And I knew it wasn't spinal, I knew it wasn't muscular. So hence why I went and got it checked out, and I had an ultrasound, and they had a look and came back that my gallbladder had about 3/4 full of stones. And life got a bit hectic. I was travelling around the world at the time, and so I was flying every week, and so it kind of had to go back on the back burner a little bit, because I wasn't going to elect for surgery. My mum had had surgery and had her gallbladder out probably about 10 years earlier than that, and she had had nothing but issues with her diet ever since. So she had a lot of gastric reflux, because she actually had no gallbladder to regulate how much bile was being pumped into her stomach. So yeah, I wasn't going to go down the route of having all of the dietary issues she had, where, you know, she had to watch what she was eating, the types of food, the amount of fat, etc. So I elected not to, as I say, have surgery, and life was busy. I was traveling, so it kind of I just didn't worry about it. I knew now what it was, and decided it could wait. And in the end of 2008, I moved to Australia, and again, life continued to be very busy. And it wasn't until about 2014, started to feel really, really fatigued. So I went to the doctors, and she said, well, let's run some blood tests and see what we can find. So anyway, I went back to get the results, and she said, your liver is, there's something not right with your liver. And so I said, well, you know, a few years earlier, I'd been told that my gallbladder was nearly full of stones. Could that have something to do with it? Because I knew the link between the gallbladder and the liver. And she said, yep, that's quite possible. That could be what it is. Let's send you for an ultrasound and see how your gallbladder is. So I went and had an ultrasound, and again, it came back with the gallstones, but this time, of course, it was full. And so again, I wasn't going to have surgery. So I went home and I Googled to try and find a natural way of healing, to see if there was something I could do other than go down the surgery route. Anyway, this recipe came up of you can do this overnight, and I was like, wow, okay, I'll give anything a go if it means I don't have surgery. So anyway, it was pretty much Epsom salts, olive oil and lemons, and that was kind of it. And I have no problem with any of those three ingredients, being they're all natural and they're good for the body. So so I planned to do it on a Friday night, so that I had, because I didn't know what the experience was going to be, what the results were going to be. And so I thought, well, if I do it Friday night so that the clearing takes place on Saturday, if, you know, things like diarrhea or whatever, if that happens, then I've also got Sunday to kind of get over that before going back to work on Monday. So anyway, so I followed the recipe, which was pretty much stop drinking at lunchtime on the Friday, any fluids, because it is olive oil. If you drink fluids and then drink the olive oil, it would make you sick. So stop drinking at lunchtime, and started, once I got home, this recipe was not the one I use now, so don't bother writing this one down. It was like a pint of olive oil and a cup of lemon juice. And so anyway, I got home that night and I just started knocking back olive oil, and I was just pretty much drinking about half a cup a time, and then following that down with the chaser of lemon juice, not even thinking to mix the two together to make it a little bit easier to drink, because I was gagging a little bit. It's not the nicest thing to drink olive oil straight down, but anyway, so I did this, and then I prepped my Epsom salts in the fridge in some water for the morning, and pretty much went to bed. And then in the morning I had my Epsom salts laid down, slept for about another hour, and then got up, and then I processed through. And the recommendation was, if you actually wanted to, catch the gallstones that come out, so you can kind of get an idea of how many gallstones are there, then you need to use a colander to catch them. So I actually did do that. I'm not squeamish, so doing that's not a problem. So and there is a photo just here with that, and that was the result. So I felt so much better. I got in contact with my doctor a couple of days later and said, this is what I've done, this is my results, and where do you suggest we go from here? And she said, well, give it a month or so, see if you're not feeling so fatigued as you were. And by the way, I'd really like to get them tested to see the formulation of them, how they were actually made, because there's two different types apparently of how gallstones are actually produced. I know there's the one which is formulating bile around a cholesterol crystal in your liver that then sits in there. I'm not sure about the other one. It was something to do with calcium, I believe. But yeah, so that's kind of what I did. And over time, I've worked a lot with some people who are very much into natural health. And I think it was when I was in the Gold Coast with Don Tolman, and he mentioned another way of doing a cleanse, and his was half a cup of olive oil and half a cup of grapefruit juice, and so that's the one I now use, which you mix together. And so yeah, and that one's so much nicer. So now I do that cleanse about every 3 to 4 years. And it's amazing actually still how many stones come out each time. I don't collect them anymore, because that first time was because I knew I had an issue. Now it's more of a maintenance. But to do the cleanse, it just gives my liver the opportunity to just have a clean up. So yeah, I'm not suggesting anyone that you actually do this, but the information is in the description below if you would like to. That's entirely up to you. You're doing it under your own decision. And but yeah, I did this and found it was really good for me, and I don't now have any acid reflux or indigestion anymore. So I actually found that for me was actually the indicator, because at the time it was the fatigue in Switzerland that actually had me going to the doctor, and the pain. But now I actually look back on it, I actually had a lot of indigestion at that point in time as well. I was forever taking Gaviscon tablets to ease the pain of indigestion. And yeah, so when I look back on it, that's actually my indicator. So now if I start getting any kind of gastric like acid reflux or indigestion, or any kind of pain there, if I feel like I might have an ulcer or something, then the first thing I do is this cleanse. And I find that it vanishes by the following day. It's gone and I don't get it again. So hence why I do this more of a maintenance thing every couple of years. And it works really well, and it's natural. There's nothing I'm using that's not good for the body. So yeah, anyway, that's the story I wanted to share with you today. So wishing you a lovely day, and yeah, take care of yourselves. Bye.